We're going to be doing a best of 23 series for every single team in the AFL. And of course, today we're starting with the Adelaide CROWS. We've got the best 23 this time around. As the sub rule is now gone, we're going to start with the backline. Who is the backline for the Adelaide CROWS coming into 2026?
I mean, one of the better defensive teams last year. So in terms of no movement in player-wise, it feels pretty like,
set in stone.
Yeah, set in stone from last year, being two main in Mark Keane and Nick Murray. Like, there's no real change there. Jordan Butt's had rumours of potentially leaving, but he won't really, I don't think, get ahead of either of those two.
It's more, will he fight for a spot? He's a bit of depth at the very least in case that backline does start to kind of crumble a bit. Yeah,
for sure. And especially with injuries, Nick Murray hasn't shown it, so having that depth is really good.
Yeah.
Also got Josh Uwaro, my man.
You love Josh Uwaro?
Mr. All-Australian deserved.
Why do you have to clarify that? I think it's more, for those who don't understand the reference, he had predicted he was your most improved prediction last year, and he won it by a mile.
And he also should have made it over Josh Butler, but we do not talk about that man anymore. Also, Max Michelini, at times in the back end of last year, he moved up the ground, even played forward at times.
Yes.
But I still think his best footy came in the back half, being able to either intercept or lock down works really well, similar to that sort of Nick Floston mould, in my opinion at least.
Yeah, and there doesn't seem to be too many new players they brought in that could potentially either fight for a spot. They're all key forwards, really, if we remember the draft night at the very least. Obviously... they have brought in Archie, who I think played a bit of halfback for Brisbane
early in his career, but he's now more of a winger half forward.
Yeah, he plays that wing half forward role now, so he's not finding himself in there. Like you said, the discussion for the backline isn't too much. It's more when we start moving further down the ground as we get to their midfield.
And like still missing their halfback flankers, which is probably their
Have we not
concern.
mentioned their halfback?
No, we
haven't.
No,
Mitch Hinge
yes.
and Wayne Miller.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually know if anyone else is behind them. Like, they just don't have good ball users.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting scenario they've got going, because I think it's the only place that, like, it's such a strong top six for their backline, but the depth behind it, Rory Laird.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, is Rory Laird going to play?
Yeah,
I have
exactly
no idea.
Right. Yeah, that was the first name that I was like, Rory Laird has been solid for so long.
Yeah.
But he's obviously getting beat now.
Yeah, and the person on our bench who will be their seventh defender, as you'll come to see, is probably more of that leaning into that defensive aspect, which is pretty much what Matthew Nicks wants. He isn't a huge fan of the ball movement side, hence why he doesn't have good halfbacks.
Yep, exactly.
I think that very much leads into it.
That's all good. Midfield.
Yeah, might as well start with a new recruit.
Yeah.
As two wingers. Also, it is to note, there is going to be injuries.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's really hard to dictate in terms of, is it a round one prediction or is it a best 23? It's really hard to tell. So it's a bit of a mix all throughout. We have gone, though, if you're playing most of the season, you will be in this team.
Yep.
So,
and thankfully, one of the wingers will be, because it would be a damn shame if he wasn't. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to spoil it for you.
You go ahead.
All right. So winger one is Callum Archie, like we had mentioned. He's getting that wing spot. Yep. And then Dan Curtin on the other side. So Dan Curtin, of course, is the one we're talking about with what sounded to be, I haven't seen it, nor do I know if there's footage, but it was a pretty scary-looking injury for Dan Curtin.
There is footage of it. It was played on 9 News. It was just a bit of a random knee injury.
Yeah.
Like wrestling on the ground. And he had
I was going to say, it was either a bad hyperextension or a dislocation. I think it was dislocation.
Might have been
which anything for a knee is awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dan Curtin is going to miss a fair few rounds to begin the year, which is a shame because from all notes that I'd seen regarding their match sims, their intra-club workouts, Curtin is looking like he's going to fly. So hopefully this injury is just a little speck. But Callum Archie, of course, it's nice to pick him up from Brisbane. I think they ended up getting him the way they probably would have preferred to, because Brisbane couldn't make a trade happen. So
didn't have to give up anything.
Exactly right. They just picked him up. But let's talk on the wings. Let's talk in the guts. We've got, of course, Jordan Dawson manning the main centre position, along with Jake Saligo and Isaac Rankin taking that midfield spot. And then, of course, big Rob, Riley O'Brien, being their ruckman. The ever-reliable Riley O'Brien, of course. There's some really, obvious ones in here. We were going to see Dawson. We're going to see Rob. But I'm interested to see some of the rotations that come in, because there's some forward players that will go through that I have heard sprinklings of potential rotations within the midfield, which is exciting stuff, because some of these players have kind of struggled at times. But hopefully 2026 is their year to burst out the pack because they really need someone to be outstanding alongside
100%.
Dawson.
Yeah.
Because Rankin can do that, and you hope that Rankin can have a full year controversy-free. But with that midfield, it's obviously the Saligo. He can have some fantastic games, but he's not so reliable.
On paper, it's very one-paced.
Yes.
And obviously, when you draft Sid Draper, you want to change that. He played a lot of games last year. A lot of them were at sub, so it's really hard to sort of see, is he going to be able to play at a full 20 games, let's say, next season?
And it's also hard to justify putting him in that best 23 midfield.
Yeah.
I think absolutely, if you guys are paying attention to what we do, we have Saligo being a pretty big Rising Star nomination in this year. So at the very least, we think he's going to have a great season, but no guarantees of it. So there we are. He's not in that midfield mix.
He might make an appearance later on, though. But when looking at this, there's still a lot of things I would change if I'm looking at a premiership midfield.
Yeah.
But it's good enough, I think, to potentially make finals.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Their forward half, though, is really where it was working for them last year, and I don't see many changes. So it seems like Thilthorpe, Fogarty, and Tex as the sort of three main keys will stay there. Tex is on the bench in this best 23 mock, but I think when you consider you've got the likes of Ben Keys, you've got the likes of Alex Neil-Bullen and Josh Rochelle, all as those small forwards, you don't really need that sort of extra toll because the work that they do makes up for it.
Yep, and don't sleep on Luke Pedlar. He had some really he was one of the rare standouts of that Collingwood final.
Yeah,
that Collingwood final. Luke Pedlar was one of the rare ones who actually showed up on the night. So don't sleep on him. But the one that I wanted to talk about the most in this forward matchup or forward line is Josh Rochelle, because he's the one who got some midfield time in some of their works that people have been able to see. So the idea is, will Rochelle be able to use some time in the midfield to potentially be that extra piece that they're looking for? Because we know that their forward line is probably their strongest part of their entire side, despite how award just prestigious their backline ended up being at the end of last year with all the awards they received. But Rankin, of course, we've known him as a forward for so long. He got the nod in the midfield. Could Rochelle take a step like that? I think he's got all the characteristics to do so. It just means there's a lot of grunt work on Jordan Dawson's shoulders.
Yeah.
So we'll wait and see how that turns out.
Yeah, he wasn't able to do it in the finals, which means he needed extra help. Obviously, no Rankin there is a big thing. But I also think it's important, if you're looking at Rankin and Rochelle, two sort of similar prototypes of a player, you almost want to stagger them, right? Let's say Rankin plays 2/3 forward, 1/3 midfield. Then maybe you want Rochelle playing the other, or reverse. You want it so that they're either both at either ends of the ground. You don't want them both at the same time, because then they're not working together as well as they could be. You want them being able to be damaging on the midfield or damaging up forward. Yeah. You need one in either end with this lackluster midfield.
Exactly right.
But moving on to their bench, which is sort of, it's hard to always do specifics with that.
Yeah.
But the seventh defender, as I mentioned before, is going to be Hugh Bond. Defensive-minded, that's what they want to be. I think he'll have the slight edge over Rory Laird, because Rory Laird is not in this team for me.
Yeah, and that was kind of the big surprise for me when I saw this initial list that you had started making up. And I can kind of get it, because it's kind of the passing of the old guard, in a sense. So hopefully he can make the most of his opportunity. But I think Rory Laird, if you're being really honest, you'll know that you'll get some games out of him this year. At least you'd think so, unless he has an absolute stinker in the twos.
Listen, there'll be moments where he plays midfield.
Yeah.
And as much as I think he's a good player, he's not a midfielder. But there's also moments where, as he did last year, he'll move to half-back. He's just not great on the ball. And
he's experienced, though. He's experienced. And
correct.
so that's why he'll always get games, and could be in people's best 23.
For sure. But again, I think this place could be switched with someone who comes through, maybe like a Braden Cook, or someone who's sort of been hiding away in the Adelaide ranks, where they are a good ball user. I think that's the most important spot that they need to fill out.
Yeah.
I do have Sid Draper here as another midfielder, and James Peatling as well. Sort of, again, very similar to Saligo, probably replaces Matt Crouch.
Yeah.
He's moved on now, so I think that position sort of slightly opens up more position for Peatling to go into the midfield. But again, he's nothing special that I'm really looking at. So again, I think that position is open to change. That's why I've got Sid Draper there.
He's passable depth is what he is what he's finding himself to be, at least in this side.
Yeah. Tex Walker, again, is the other player. I mentioned him before. Could there be moments where Ludovic or potentially Mitch Marsh come in and play? Absolutely.
Those were the big ones that I was going to talk about. They're 2 draftees because there was a lot of talk about Ludovic falling so far. Mitch Marsh, of course, was on some of the boards. And with all the fallers, the fact that Mitch Marsh was one of those who kind of stayed in his spot and was picked up about where we expected him to be. It's just really interesting to see that they've doubled down on forward depth. Although I think it's really exciting because, I mean, to get a talent like Archie for at the pick they got him,
for sure,
is really exciting.
He was considered a top 25, top 30 prospect, did his PCL, so wasn't able to finish the back end of the year, but incredible upside with him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised at times if, obviously, considering Curtin's injury at the start, Marsh does get game time. When you consider he is such a great runner, and they do like those sort of bigger-bodied wingers, when you consider they just got in Archie, who sort of fits that mold as well. I think there absolutely is room for him to come in, maybe only play 50% game time, which is what the extra 23 sort of allows. But I think absolutely you can consider a couple of those getting game time when you consider that Tex probably won't be able to play all 23 games.
Yeah.
All 24 games?
Very much
games.
so.
23 games.
Some interesting ones here and there that I also wanted to quickly mention before we finish off. Lockie Scholl isn't in here.
Yeah.
Finbar Maley, who they traded for, is not in their best 23.
He's probably battling again with those 2 youngsters.
Yeah.
Lockie Scholl I actually do want to touch on because ball movement and skill off halfback, he is one. So I could absolutely see him coming in. But I think in terms of Matty Nick's system, he doesn't overly fit that defensive-minded ability.
That's completely fair. Did you mention Isaac Cumming as well? He's
yes,
on the 23rd?
he is the 5th player on the bench.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
just good pickup, but again, bit of a scrawny type player.
There's no glaring problems with this team. It seems to be for the most part. Obviously, we'll see how that turns out as the year goes on. As a lot of people have predicted that this team may fall off the horse a little bit after a fantastic first place finish last season. But we'll have to wait and see how the best 23 of Adelaide go in 2026. So thank you guys very much for watching. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you all for the next version of this one very, very soon. Cheers.